All right, guys, welcome back to Spank Ranch Garage. We're in forklift land here. This is an old tow motor that was bought by Caterpillar at some point. My understanding is these are very old, probably from, I don't know, late 50s, maybe 60s, no idea. Pretty interesting brake and drive arrangement on these. They have bearings like a trailer, and they actually drive what I would assume is a ring gear inside the brake drum as kind of like a final reduction here. But anyway, these guys are putting new wheel cylinders into it. That happened, which isn't good. These parts are no longer available according to their dealer, so I'm gonna see if I can make one. My understanding of how this works is this is like a cam, kinda, and it fits. If this wasn't broken, you'd have this. By rotating this shaft, you change the location of that cam, and that affects where your brake shoe rides. So that's how you would adjust your brakes. You turn these cams. Now, it's got this huge spring on it here for tension. These look really hard to install. This is gonna take a lot of force. Then on the back side, you just have a washer and a retaining pin, and you'll put a wrench on here to turn it. So I don't think anything actually holds this in place other than the friction from that spring. Here's a look at one on the other side. You can see there's another one down there, and then you've got your brake wheel cylinder there. So you would just turn these until they lightly drag on the drum. Take this stuff home, see if we can make a suitable replacement for this. All right, so just drew this thing up so I have a file of it in case we ever need to make more in the future. Had to make some educated guesses here where there's damage and wear to try to see what tow motor was actually aiming for back in the day. But I think we got it close enough. Nothing here is really precise. This is not, aerospace parts. This is 70-year-old forklift parts. Let's make this thing. Pin is pretty hard, but that should only be the outer layer. Got my 3 layout lines here and some Sharpie. Just kind of working my way from the hard end to the easy end on the drawing. So we'll get these major diameters turned to where they got to be. This part here is now this part here. So our next cut is going to be the slot that this is in. We're going to treat this as a circle for now. This boss here is actually above this, proud of this. This isn't wear. It's actually intentional the way that is. So we're gonna turn this into a big circle, and then when we go to offset turn it, this outer face here will be tangent. So I'm gonna shoot just a little bit high, do the bulk material removal, and then we'll get into that later. So basically you can calculate that knowing that the center axes are offset by that little bit, and you have the diameter of this boss. Roughed in. I'm just cooling it down. This is really the only dimension that matters on this. Everything else just needs to be close, but I want to hit this pretty good because that's where it's going to fit through that backing plate bushing. You don't want it wobbling around. Going to get that cooled down, make our final pass out to this shoulder, switch to a left-handed tool, run it this way, and then we're ready for our next step. So we'll call that our blank is complete. Turned out great. This came out perfect. Hit the spec. Happy with that. Probably a little overkill, but it's good to shoot for the stars. put this thing in a 4-jaw, and I have it centered between these 2 jaws, right? 0, flip it 180, 0. So now we know it's centered this way in the jaw. So if we flip it this way, move this, the amount of offset we need, we should be able to just cut and go, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 50, 60, 70, 80, we're going for 88. 88, up. Oh, 89. It's a half a thousandth out. Well, anyway, that is plenty good for what we're doing here. You can see the motion in which this is moving. Right, this is just a parking brake on a forklift. It does not matter, but if you were grinding like a real camshaft or a crankshaft or something, you may want to play for that extra half a thou. We ain't doing that tonight. Thought is come in here with a parting tool and basically take this shoulder out. It's going to be a very interrupted, wild cut for a while. Now, if you want something to play with your eyes, check this out. Just rolled a center in here just to see. That's the new axis of rotation. This looks like that tip is just scraping across it. It's actually not turning. Put a little tension on it, and it don't want to turn, but that's going to leave a dot right in the center of that. Now it left that dot there. Look at that. I mean, that plays with your eyes like... I hope that looks as weird on video as it does in real life, but this is the new center right there. Look how this looks when it spins. It looks like fake, like this can't be real life. Very strange. But just had to leave that mark just for sanity's sake there. That is centered. It's so funky. Seeing it yet? We're starting to build a pin. Now, before we get too thin here, I'm gonna hog the rest of this out, rough all that in, and then party on, bring her down to final size. Got that all roughed out, didn't even break a tool yet. But now it's just a matter of bringing this to diameter and cleaning it all up. That should go all right, I hope. But yeah, that was roughing it out. Still looks crazy seeing it here, but it's just a game with your eyes. As we're down to size, I have a little bit of cosmetic cleanup here where I left a little bit of a shoulder. But we're there. You can see, just like the other one, it sticks slightly proud of this. All the dimensions are right. We made it somehow. It is funky to get your head around, but it's pretty cool. Pretty cool when it works. All right, so now for the easiest part for most people, but I actually don't have a 6-sided collet block, so I have to set up this spin indexer thing that I got at an auction for 20 bucks with a collet in it to grab the back of the part, put it in a V-block, 1, 2, 3s, machinist jacks, tie down, whatever. We'll cut our first cut here, and then this thing is like a ratcheting indexer. So I already set it up for 6 sides, 60 degrees. You'll watch, I'll push this down, handle clicks, it's locked into that face. Ratchet this thing up, release it again. There's your other face. Kind of ghetto. I don't know. This thing is actually really nice, but it takes forever to set up. If you can see it, but there's all these set screws in there. There's 24 of them, and you position those to grab the detent every however many degrees you want. So it's not wildly capable, but 20 bucks is 20 bucks. Once I finish this job, maybe I'll have enough money for a $15 collet block on Amazon. Talk about making a project out of nothing. I really need to get one of those stupid little collet blocks. I know it looks like this is unsupported here, but the V-block is way wider than the hex we're putting on, so it is supported. That'll work. All right, reamed that to 250 on the money. All right, guys, that is a wrap on this little quickie. He hit me up at like noon today. Came home from work, banged it out after work, done by 9 p.m. He'll have it in the morning. It's hard to beat that kind of service. And I really don't charge much because I like doing this stuff. I like the challenge. You know, to most people, this is a really simple part. And there's actually some thought that has to go into this with the offset turning operation here. And, you know, the pin, the hex. Just really proud of how this one turned out because I really didn't put too much effort into this. I just came out here and banged it out. You know, this was an old skid steer bucket pin. Just used it as stock, turned it all the way down. Did my thing with it, and now he's got a good part because this one has been broken for a long time, so no brakes on that tire. And, you know, by the time you try to weld this back together and repair it, this is going to be a better part and probably took me the same amount of time. So cost to the customer, you get a brand new pin. Anyway, if you're fixing up an old tow motor Caterpillar forklift and you need one of these, shoot me an email because I have a drawing for it now and I can make as many as we need if anyone else needs them. Wanted to make this video more not to teach anybody anything, so don't take this as I'm a machinist and I know what I'm doing. I have no official training. I am just a guy that bought a lathe and bought a mill and tinkers around in his garage. But that's the topic of the video, is I want to inspire others to do the same. I really think being able to make parts like this on the fly it's valuable to yourself and it's valuable to others, but it's also very, I don't know, it feels kind of rewarding, right? And what I like about it is this part was made probably in the late 50s or early 60s, and this lathe was made around that time period. And while this Bridgeport's a little newer, they also had these at that time as well. And it's just interesting to think that somebody, you know, 1 or 2 generations behind me was standing at a machine just like this, making this part. You know, this didn't come off any type of CNC tooling, right? This was handmade. All these parts were handmade back in the 50s and 60s. Some guy was standing here just like me in a factory, cranking out probably 100 of these a day with a specialty setup. And here I am, you know, 70 years later, just some guy in his garage making it with probably the same exact process and making it work. It's nice to be able to just create something like this at a moment's notice for almost no money, right? I used free CAD software to draw it. To be honest, I could have drew this on a napkin. A set of calipers, some very basic tooling, even the wrong tooling on the Bridgeport. You know, I could have did all that with a $16 collet block. Bingo bango, you're in and out making real functional parts for whatever type of equipment you want. Just want to inspire young men to get out there, buy some equipment, and start doing stuff with it. I think it's a great skill to have. Always going to be times where there are parts that are no longer made, or you can't get them, or you can't accept the price or the lead time. And being able to manufacture it yourself right in your garage without even leaving the garage is a really nice, I would say, tool to put in your toolkit You know, the other thing is the repair side. It makes repairing things so much easier when you have a lathe or a mill, right? You can weld things back together, turn things back down, fix bearing races, fix seal surfaces, fly cut cylinder heads, whatever you want to do. Really, the options are endless. I think the example that I wanted to show is that a normal guy in his normal garage can produce parts like this if he wanted to. So hopefully you guys can take something away from that. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. I'll see you next time on Spank Ranch Garage.